We are back for more Kubera spin-offs. I've just got back from the gym, so this is of course your weekly reminder to exercise. Do it, you'll appreciate it in the future. Anyhow, let's just jump into it. We're going to be doing 3 today, as long as time allows, which it... Oh god! Opening things I need to open! It's common for Nastika to have differences in their appearance, depending on the form of expressed gender. But most of those differences are limited to slight variance in power with a similar level, or changes in the type of unique transcendental skills. Hence, most Nastika live in their preferred gender forms, and switch to the other gender when the need arises. However, here's a bunny beyond the scope of the above conventions, another Yaksha. The bunny was a female at the beginning of time, which coincided with its preferred gender type. But the thing is, it was detrimentally weak. Never mind a high rank, it couldn't even be considered a mid-low rank. So fragile that it even had to pray to the gods that it wouldn't be beaten up to death by the others. As soon as its weakness became publicly known, some immediately stooped low and started bullying. When the bunny couldn't take it anymore, it tried taking on the male gender for the first time ever, as a last resort. Those that snorted at the gender switch, thinking a weakling is a weakling one way or another, all became the bunny's prey that day. The lowest ranked female type, and the highest ranked male type. Petapan had the biggest gender discrepancy among the entire Nastika. Although the bunny chose the male form to survive, it didn't want to do away with its former self. And so, it decided to take the younger form back. And decided to take the younger form before the voice break. And simulate its female form. Were you there all along? Oh, wait, no, wrong way around. Were you there all along? It looked like you were in danger, so I was gonna help you. Is that right? Well, thank you. I guess you were taken by surprise then. I've found a way to survive on my own now, so there's no need for you to be concerned about me. Season 3, spin-off 11, Gluttony. So this is where you've been hiding, Hanuman. Ugh, man, how did you find out where I was? Damn it, Petapan. Is it true that you've perished countless planet gods in order to cover Shuri's tracks? There's almost like a continuation on from the previous one, isn't it? Ugh. When I was eating the other day, I burnt the roof of my mouth, and it has now basically become like a bit of an ulcer, and it's very annoying, but it is what it is. It's just whenever I speak in certain ways, it agitates it. So I have to drink water a bit more frequently than I'd like. Countless planet gods. I've only gotten rid of 4 planets so far. There are countless jurisdictions overseen by countless gods in each of those planets. Oh yeah, if you put it that way, then I guess I did. Shouldn't you think a little about the consequences before you... the potential consequences before you do something? Nothing good will come of messing up your relationship with gods. Especially so for you, since your reputation among clanmates isn't so good. If you keep acting like this... that nagging of yours! Look who's talking. Did you behave so perfectly that you let your wife die and make the Firefox leave? Sickened of you. From the way that Firefox went all out and said marry me or kill me in that situation. I'm sure part of her had been wanting for an opportunity like that. But you just couldn't play it by ear and turned her down flat. I mean, it would have been a win-win scenario if you made the Firefox your concubine, don't you think? Then your wife wouldn't have died, and the Firefox would have gotten what she wanted. But you just couldn't get over yourself. That's why your wife got sacrificed.
Maybe a bit too soon. Maybe a bit too soon.
King Yax is gone. You can get up now. I told you to watch what you say. You could end up dead one of these days. It doesn't matter. That old man might be the crap out of you, but he won't kill you. You saw how he didn't even punish those bastards that murdered his wife. Yeah, I thought that was a bit too much. I didn't expect him to be like that. I knew it was soft, but I thought he'd at least do something to avenge the death of his mate that he held so dear in his heart. The other clanmates that had disregarded the plan to kill Jambavana as mere gibberish also thought the same way. In the end, all of you were wrong, and I'm the one that was right. Aren't I great? I predicted that the old man would be able to kill them regardless of how angry he was. Alright, that's a guess that would have been very wrong in general. But I see that a fool's guess could sometimes turn out to be true. I'll acknowledge that. Why am I the fool when my guess was right? You should start fearing the king for once. The whole world might seem like a joke to you with that mighty power of yours. But making enemies like this isn't prudent of you. There are ones much stronger than you, and should things go wrong, you could also end up getting erased overnight. Gonna get lost if you're gonna nag me. I'm just worried about you. That if you didn't even have me around, it might lead to a lonely life and disappear as a loner. Ah, very funny. It's not like you got anyone around you that could be considered a real friend. I do make an effort to socialize as much as I can. Does it look that awkward? Of course it does. I know the reason why you fear power. I can see you busting your ass to please others and force yourself a smile. So quit your nagging and just go away. I hate dealing with complicated stuff. And have no idea how to handle an animal as depressing as you. Didn't I tell you to get lost? You look just as hungry as I am. Who says? I'm not hungry. I'll take you to this go-to restaurant our Vada introduced me to. Restaurant? Huh? Ah! I guess they were in the human realm, wouldn't they? They could just go to human realm, take human form, and then bam. Right? Yeah, I suppose. That's... what the fuck? You're just not listening to me, are you? The bunny was the longest surviving Nastika with a chaos attribute. It did seem a bit strange up here. Where was it? This here. Anyhow. Unlike the other Chaos Nastika, from clans that have gone killed after going berserk early on, the bunny patiently pulled itself together to resist for a long time. And sometime before dying, it even became Hanuman's partner. Other clanmates would have wondered in awe just how the bunny had tamed a wild rogue like Hanuman and lived happily during the later part of its life. Of course, there were concerned voices about the possibility of the bunny going berserk, but in every such instance, Hanuman stood up for the bunny in its defense. Everything will be just fine, since nothing's ever happened all this time. The ones that have gone berserk are the idiots for not being able to resist. My partner was nothing like those fools. Contrary to Hanuman's belief, the bunny's appetite was only growing stronger. It wasn't hard to foresee that, at this rate, Hanuman would die trying to defend the bunny going berserk. So the bunny left Hanuman. Soon after, the bunny went berserk outside the outskirts of the universe. Those that had experienced the headache of dealing with a full-blown Chaos Nastika wasted no time in gathering up to finish it.
So all the Chaos Nastika have been erased at last.
Thank goodness, that's such a relief.
But then there are still Rakshasa that remain.
Hey, Hanuman's behind you!
I don't think he heard us.
Yeah, otherwise he'd be all over us by now.
You've gotten better at curbing your temper.
Oh wait, you've gotten better at curbing your temper, Hanuman. Please protect that child from those who think like the ones you've just heard. Ah, that was the other way around. Whatever. And where will you go? To forget the mean bastard. After all that nagging about fearing the kings and disappearing overnight, she ended up disappearing before me. What a jerk. But a bomb must have held out, thanks to you. Each clan had only one Nastique with a Chaos attribute at the beginning of time. So when Petapon heard the news that the sixth Nastika from another clan had died, the feeling of being the only one of her kind must have devastated her. But she'd lost her will to go on. On the other hand, she could have lost herself much sooner if not for you. Thank you for being the support Petapon needed to continue her journey. You must have gone through a rough patch at the beginning of time. Oh wait, no. You must have gone through a rough patch at the beginning of time. I'm sorry. Not only wasn't I any support to you, but I even made things harder for you. Huh? I must have lived a long time to hear such things from you. But you don't have to be sorry for everything. Although you couldn't be my support, you can provide me with one that could. What's that supposed to mean? Well, if you ever get to meet that kid again, then you'll also come to realize. Bro, they're talking about Ron! Also, I wonder, this might be absolutely batshit insane, but this Rakshasa that is Hanuman's child, you know, just speculation, you know, to be continued. That was really good. That was really, really good. I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. That one was actually a really, like, pleasant read. Gluttony, really, really good. I enjoyed that. That was sweet. I like the insight into Hanuman. And also more with Yaksha as well. Yaksha's kind of goated. Can't lie. Oh, speaking of goated characters, I was thinking about doing, like, a prompt video at some point soon, like people have done for Tower of God and stuff before, but obviously with Kubera. And so, let me know your thoughts if you think that'd be a good idea. And if, you know, well, also, you think people would join in. It'd probably be some character related. But yeah, anyway, carrying on. At the beginning of the universe, various minor and major errors were still being fixed. A clan was so powerful that a low-rank Nastika could step over a mid-rank of other clans. But we also had a fatal flaw of perishing altogether when we fell in love with one of our kind. Obviously enough, there could not be any newborn Rakshasa. And before we even realized the error, 30% of the clan had vanished into thin air. So the king negotiated with the primeval gods to find a solution to this problem. And that was to unify the gender across the entire clan and suppress our emotion. I've got the fucking hiccups! No! My greatest weakness. We'll pick the male form as our gender, since most of us are strong in that way. Even our king has agreed to give up the female form, even though it's the stronger type. Interesting. It was a decision that came forward with the king's sacrifice for the sake of our clan. And no others that were weaker than the king could oppose it. Season 3, spin-off 2, Phantasmagoria. Personally speaking, having to give up my stronger female form to become a male wasn't a big of a deal, since an unwritten law was established to treat all Vritra as an endangered species to be preserved. Because we'd lost almost 1/3 of our kind already, not to mention, we couldn't make any new Rakshasa. Both the gods and other clans don't really try to fight with us, and since we lack the emotions that would otherwise feed our ambitions or free will, we didn't stir trouble with other kinds either. The suppression of emotion wasn't perfect, however, and some would get driven by lingering emotions such as anger or jealousy. But those instances didn't last long before fading away. Therefore, never escalated into universal scale problems. And so, fixing the Vitreous clan's errors seemed quite successful. But what I was going through was not totally the case. Taksaka, let's fight! There he goes again. Is he nuts for real? Today's the day! I'll defeat you no matter what! Oh, just took a fucking screenshot on my phone's home screen. Get yourself together, Kadru. Do you really have a death wish? Please, Taksaka, just ignore him. That brat's been going through some weird shit lately. Ugh. Normally he'd never do anything this absurd. Get out of my way. I'm gonna fight right now with that bastard. Wait a minute, isn't that, Vasuki? That looks like Vasuki. I feel like it's the lines and the hair. That looks like Vasuki. What's this? Are you trying to be funny? Where's your remaining emotion, rashness? If you want to be foolhardy, then do it elsewhere. I don't mind watching a fight, but I do mind watching an endangered species get killed. I won't hold you accountable for everything you've done up to this point. Just quietly get lost and never come back. I won't let you be forever just because you're my kind, Kadru. Say what? Emotional resonance. Right, otherwise why would I have attacked Taksaka? I'm sure this is because our king wishes to fight Taksaka. I mean, there are rumors that Vritra still has the desire to fight Taksaka, but still, all he ever does is provoke him with words. He never actually goes at him. Of course not, because Vritra is the king and he's mighty. He's just being cautious because if Taksaka dies, he'll never have another chance to fight. God, hold on, I need to check this. Hold up. Sorry. Anyway, carrying on. Whereas me that's getting affected by his emotions ended up attacking him, so there's zero possibility of me killing Taksaka. I still think you're taking this too far. No Nastiga from any other clans gets swayed by emotional resonance to that extent. It's unusual. It's usually the inferior Sura that lose themselves in emotion. But our kind doesn't have inferior Sura, remember? If emotional resonance infects Sura of lower rank more strongly, that color like ours where only Nastika remain. The ones like me could be the ones that get affected. It doesn't matter, I don't know. Besides, the fact that I can't really believe what you're saying, I don't have a solution for you. So you're talking to the wrong Sura. If it troubles you that much, how about you try appealing to the primeval gods? It's too late to ask for anything like the error fix at the beginning of time, but they might at least give you some helpful advice. But for a mere Nastika, meaning the primeval gods wasn't easy. Brahma and Shiva were cooped up in the gods' realm since the error fixing period ended. And Vishnu and Kali were all over the place. So unless they wished to see me first, it was impossible to meet them willingly. What? You want us to take you to God Brahma? Yeah, you should know where she stays. Entering the god's realm just like that could be risky, so if you could help me a little... It all depends on where in the god realm you're talking about. Where she stays isn't the same. It's even higher than Yama's place. At your level, you would... Siri, what the fuck? I don't even know what triggered Siri there. What? What the hell? Which of these words triggered it?
I'm getting a terrible headache that makes me walk out of there. So for Amir Nastika, won't your head go boom? Burst the second you set foot in her place?
Or, if you want to go that bad, why don't you practice some abstinence or reach enlightenment? But who knows how long Agnostica would take to get to that point.
Even though I didn't reach that point, you expect him to get there? Really?
I mean, wouldn't it be possible if he ate veggies for the next 10 billion years? That was harsh. I can't guarantee she'll respond anytime soon, but I'll try to relay the message to God Brahma. And when I finally got to meet God Brahma, she suggested I switch clans. She said that my Sura form or attributes wouldn't change, even if I moved to another clan. But the emotional resonance I was experiencing would be bound to the new king I'd serve. And I'd never be able to return to the clan I once left. Why don't you give it a little more thought since you can't come back? About that emotional resonance issue. If I stick with you all the time? Until when? No thanks, I don't want that. And so, the first clan I picked was the Ananta clan. It was Asuki's recommendation, based on the fact that since my Sura form is similar in appearance to theirs, I'd be able to blend right in. And the guess was right. I don't know if it was because many of them were weaker than me, or because Ananta generally don't experience emotional ups and downs. That unpleasant feeling of not being in control of my own emotions completely disappeared. And I could enjoy what felt like more liberal and comfy days compared to those I'd spent in the Vritra clan. Ananta clan's atmosphere was neither too rigid nor too laid back, with the king that possessed an overwhelming power, but didn't throw it around. How does switching clans work? Just go, yeah, so I'm an Ananta now, and then all of a sudden you're affected by Ananta's emotional resonance, not Vritra's? How does that work? How does this whole process work? While other clans were busy digging their own graves, fighting civil wars, or against gods, we could somewhat easily preserve our superior Sura throughout history thanks to the solid ruling class. Now you naturally refer to the Ananta as we. Alright, if you're happy, then that's all that matters. The friend that's been coming over to say hi for some time stopped visiting at some point. I didn't care much, since I'd stopped considering him as my kind anyway. I just assumed he'd stopped coming for the same reason. Although my desk felt a bit empty since that time. I didn't think of it much after all. I had my new clanmates, and days filled with just enough quarrels, just enough laughter, and just enough sense of belonging. I had more than enough ways to pass my time. 10 million years have passed, and another 10 million, and again, 10 million years. That's boring. When my clanmates heard me utter those words, they looked at me as if they couldn't understand why. I wondered if that old friend could have understood me. I asked around about his whereabouts, but the Vritra clan had dispersed by then, and nobody knew anything about my old friend. They'd said a significant number of dragons had ended their own existence out of an unbearable mundanity. The only relief was that my friend's name wasn't among them. He must be alive somewhere. Would he think the same about me? I wondered. And somehow, I felt like I had to live on. If things got too boring, I could always make something to entertain myself. Passing the time isn't that hard. That's how I spent most of my life, Lemgus Kadru of the Ananta clan. Until Sagara became the next king. Around that time, clan switching had become widely known among Sura. Besides the issues involving emotional resonance, like in my case, some simply disliked their current king, and some had other miscellaneous reasons. Many were going through the symbolic clan switching to serve a different king. Yeah, it looks like we should switch again, right? Yeah, we better. I mean, Zagara, the king, the Ananta's future's doomed. I wish at least Vasuki would come to some sense. That jerk was done for when he refused to take the throne after Ananta's death. Let's not waste any more time and get going. As of now, the Asura clan seems to be the most stable one, right? It's difficult to walk away from your original clan the first time, but not so much the subsequent times. After readily deciding to move on, we left the soon-to-fall Ananta clan and headed to the Asura. From there, I was able to hear news about my friend. That he died recently, after breaking into the God Realm to protest about his deceased human wife getting sent to hell. I couldn't understand why he'd choose a human as his significant other. Not to mention breaking into the God's realm to challenge a decision about where the deceased human would go. What a weirdo. It wasn't like I felt sad or anything, but the fact that he'd come to such an evanescent end after enduring all that time got me asking the ultimate question as to why he lived in the first place. For what purpose were we created? And where were we headed? You'll know the answers to those questions once you stand on the top. Too bad someone like you couldn't even dream of getting there, though. If it's a state those arrogant bastards can reach, I'm sure it's doable. Rather than continuing with this boring life that doesn't even interest me anymore, challenging myself to reach whatever state they've reached might not be such a bad alternative. Or so I thought. But you're trapped here! There's no way you could go to that top or whatever. God, Drew, if it's a place reached by the ultimate state of mind, you think it'd be bound by physicality. The bottom or top of this world exists anywhere, in anyone. It's just that only a few can understand this. Then you. Let me eat you on purpose. He's the last thing I see. I must have lived in vain. I'm tired. That's another beast I have to carry. Spin-off 2, Phantasmagoria, and the end of a Fiendish magician next. Interesting. That implies Challenger's carrying those with him. The name my dad had given me was Shiri. Yeah, also that interesting, but no, I don't think that wasn't as good as Gluttony overall. It wasn't bad, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I don't have any particular opinions on that one either way. Pretty outrageous. Some people say that using a god's name is blasphemy, but using that of an Azteca could get you killed altogether. Whether it's that the Azteca that owns that name or their followers, they'll come to finish me at once if they find out that a mere human is going around with that name. And yet, my father had him when I had and named his child just that, in hopes that one day he might be able to see the beauty that's said to captivate even the gods. My father also used to follow the Fiendish magicians to get a San Yoga contract, giving prayers at temples, going around asking people, and going on adventures which, according to him, were a bit too much. He didn't know if it was bad luck or what, but the group he tagged along with couldn't meet Shiri. But once my father left that group, they would meet her. Feeling out of luck, he took his rage out on drinking to the point that he lost his mental and physical health, and his friends who sincerely cared for him. I don't know if it has anything to do with him roaming about so much during his younger days, but the father I remember was someone who detested moving. His body was so intoxicated with alcohol and out of shape that he couldn't even go to the bathroom on his own. His body gave out each day. All he do was utter, "Will tomorrow be the day Lord Shuri appears before me?" Quite outrageous, since if that Shuri does appear, then his child could die. Well, that's the kind of father he was. I wonder if it was his luck. Wonder if it was good or bad luck. But at last, he did get to meet Shuri. By sacrificing his child, he got his lifetime wish fulfilled. And died. I mean, his days were numbered anyway, but at the sight of the Nastika that he'd so longed to meet all his life, he failed to manage his overwhelming joy and fainted, but never woke up again. And just like that, he couldn't even say a word to whom he'd dreamed of all his life. I stood there blankly, and that's when Shuri reached her hand out to me, offering to make a song yoga contract with me for taking away my family, although unintentional. So I'm interested in... I'm watching the World Chess Championship. While this is going on in the second tab. So I just wanted to have a quick look at where the game's at. It's going to be a draw. Anyhow. Sorry. I was really interested. It just came back to my mind. I was like, "Ooh, shit. Is it finished? Is it finished? Oh my god." As we got a quick bit, looking at the position, it's probably going to be a draw. Anyway, back to Kubera. And I doomed to end up in hell if I do that? And Shuri asked me whether I was more afraid of hell or my current life. It was a matter of choosing between enough talent to achieve the top tier as a Fiendish magician, or to lead a life full of hardship with a weak physique inherited from my father and zero divine affinity, she said. And then she added, "What's the difference between that kind of life and hell?" Season 3, Spin-off 13, The End of a Fiendish Magician. Now that I think back, it wasn't like Shuri had given me a definitive answer. All she meant was that my life would be much more difficult if I refused to make a Fiendish contract. But whether a Fiendish magician would really end up in hell after death was still unknown. Come to think of it, she wouldn't have gone to hell herself, so maybe she simply couldn't answer me because she didn't know. At any rate, I had a pretty successful life as a Fiendish magician. I had a high Fiendish affinity, and unlike my father, luck also seemed to be on my side. Since the end, I ended up making 3 contracts for Fiendish magicians that others would envy me for. I received many requests to use that power for this and that purpose. My requests with ill intentions came with high monetary offers. When I rejected them, they'd tell me not to be so picky about it, since just for being a Fiendish magician, I was bound to go to hell anyway. Maybe that was precisely why there were so many Fiendish magicians going off the rails, living their lives as if nothing mattered to them. As for me though, I stood by my standards. I still had hope for the unknown, that there was still no certainty about all Fiendish magicians going to hell regardless. At times when I felt like there were issues, I'd not hesitate to stand up against divine magicians. While the insecure side of me was teasing my innocent friends, telling them that the gods were unfair, the other side of me wanted to believe otherwise. That either total belief or defiance in them wasn't the only basis of determining who goes to hell. What if it were a truly fair god? Then one wouldn't be judged upon just those 2 factors. Maybe it was me, desperately struggling to salvage myself, that had chosen the path of a Fiendish magician. On the outside, I was a Fiendish magician that was more like a divine magician than a real divine one. But I never considered myself to be a nice person. I was, rather, a human grasping at straws, trying to avoid being thrown into hell. When I first met Anan, for the first time, I thought he was totally different from me. He was a divine magician that was more like a Fiendish magician than a real Fiendish magician. I mean... yeah? I knew I felt something peculiar about him, but it wasn't until later that I found out his divine divinity was due to a god-level item. But still, he'd also had his standards and stood by them. After he became the Priest of Earth and learned about the scary rumors surrounding the Holy Vishnu magic, he refrained from killing anyone, even during a match where magicians were on standby to resurrect the dead. When I asked if he was also concerned with the Judgment Day, he answered, "I don't know where my companion went after she vanished that day. But since she was used and tricked into going berserk by Asura, I don't think she'd have gone to hell for it. That's my belief. So, I ought to at least hang on to the possibility of meeting her later. In the past, my life used to be even more heretical than hers. But I want to dedicate the rest of my life to the gods, so I can be next to her at the end of all of it." In the end, Anam became a great priest. I wasn't around him until the end, so I don't know how things were at the end of his time. But I have no doubt that he would have gone down in history as a great man who lived up to his moral conviction. It is also true that his item must have helped him a lot. His life was quite exceptional. Since following the Fiendish magic incident, all other Fiendish magicians have lost their powers and have been shunned by others. In a group that decided to reject Sura and believed only in gods, some wanted to prove their belief by becoming more harsh. Apologies to the Fiendish magicians. Now that they were easy to deal with due to their weakened state, some even thought killing them wasn't sinning just because they made contracts with Suras. It had also been rescued by Enan and Atra more than just a few times. They told me that the fanatics were the wrong ones and comforted me. That I'd done nothing to feel sorry about. But a commoner that's being looked after by two priests, I didn't have to be a genius to know that I was being a nuisance. Fortunately, although I was once a famous Fiendish magician, my face wasn't known to the entire universe. I passed as someone who looked alike whenever someone recognized me, and as my facial features changed over time, while I moved from one planet to another, nobody recognized me. Many Fiendish magicians couldn't bear their downfalls, and those who felt too sick at heart chose to end their lives on their own. But I heard words about how ending your life could run to you in hell, and, well, I wasn't in much despair to kill myself, so I lived on. Were things harder than before, you asked? Not really. In fact, it was the opposite. At one point, I thought that maybe, even if I'd chosen not to make a contract with Shuri on the day I met her, my life as an ordinary person wouldn't have been anything like hell. A life without the ability to use magic wasn't as bad as I thought. To my surprise, I felt more at ease and more joyful than before. With nothing special to offer, I'd gone through all sorts of different occupations and met many different kinds of people. For things that could easily be solved with magic, ordinary people who weren't well off needed their professional techniques to solve them. Oh, I'm so sore. And ironically, my last occupation was a caregiver. Something I so hated doing as a child, but something I was best at. Since I had no family to pass down my wealth, or felt any need to save up for my retirement, I only got paid just enough to sustain my minimal lifestyle. Like that, I believe I was working until the very last moment of my life. And then, that's right. That was the moment I took my last breath. It looked so peaceful. To think I was able to greet those who came to take care of me with such a smile. I'm so glad. It's a very satisfactory ending. You told me you couldn't recall a thing, but you just told me a whole story. What you showed me triggered my memory, and it was interesting to see my own life from a third-person perspective. It's very rare that someone comes in here and smiles like you while going over their life. Even those who pretend to be indifferent break into regretful tears after seeing everything. Is that the normal reaction? It's not about what's normal or abnormal. It means that, although your life was full of ups and downs, there was nothing significant enough to be engraved on your soul beyond death. Some might say you had a gratifying life without any lingering regrets. Some might say that you've lived in vain for not having anyone that made you feel deep in your heart. Which one of those applies to you? For me, it was just fun. I had a fun life. Godiyama, I'll take him away. You should stay here. No, it's not the type of soul you get to encounter often. I'll take him myself. You stay put in the meantime. Wow, I'm being accompanied by God Yama on my way to hell? This is such a great honor. Why do you think you'll go to hell? I'm sorry, am I not? I heard that the whole purpose of reviving before death, memory, and creating a body like this was to make you suffer in hell. Plus, I was a Fiendish magician, one that had contracted with Phantasmagoria, that I was told that you're doomed to go to hell if you fall in love with a Sura, worship one, or make a contract with one. Well, damn. I guess that means the parents of every single half and quarter are a bit fucked, aren't they? Those are just rumors spread by those that want to believe in them, or make others believe in them. It's not judged based on any of those factors. There's no way my wife would have done such a thing! Don't you dare judge her and disregard her honor! That's just how it is. Since most want to be seen as good to their loved ones rather than evil. For those that have only seen the good side of them, it must be impossible to understand that their family or friends have committed sins great enough to end up in hell. Maybe it's only natural for them to think it's God making misjudgments. It must be tough on you. There's no need to comfort a god like that. Things are hardest on all of you that lived through all the obstacles in that world. Yama's one of the good gods. Like, Yama's actually, like, such a bro. Yama is such a bro, it is unreal. Yama's such a good guy. Leave all of the revived memories behind and go on your way. You've done very well. Spin-off. The end of a Fiendish magician. And next, whistle. Alright. There we are. Well, that's where we're going to end it for today. I hope you've all enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, sub, notification bell, share the video around. But very, very, very close to 700 subs as of recording this. It is the 11th of December, and I'm at 698 subs. So, at least last time I checked. So, do me a solid. If we could hit 700 before Christmas, that would be a ballin'. But anyway, with that out of the way, I'm Elsie, you've been you. Have a good time for the video. Let's start. Bye. No, yeah.